style.
You said your grandfather passed away working at Clinton Corn, is that right?
Yeah, he got killed there.
How so? What happened?
Well, they used to have these thing called steep tanks. The corn would ferment down in there, and then afterwards they'd have, a person would go down there and shovel that stuff out. Well, it ferments and it forms nitrous oxide, it's silo gas, and it overcome them. His boss went down there and he was overcome, so they both died down there. So and guess what? After that, nobody went down there anymore. They flushed them out with water.
What was the company's reaction when that happened? What did they do?
Well, I don't know. What could they do? They just, they give their sympathies and stuff, but then they don't. That was in 1935. I didn't ever knew my grandfather. He actually came here from Chicago, and he helped build that plant when they built it in 1907. There was a lot of immigrants that came here, and from Sweden, Denmark, Russia, Serbia, and then they Lithuania, and they worked in that factory, and they helped build it, and then they ended up getting jobs there. I got one of those little union books that my dad had, and there's all these names in there. They're names you can see they're from over in Europe because of their names and stuff. But quite a mix. It was quite a brotherhood of people down there. They had those parties. I should have brought some of those old books that I had, the Klinko books, where it shows them. It's a magazine the company put out, and it showed the workers in the factory what they were doing and all that kind of stuff. And everything was self-sufficient. I mean, they had their own machine shop, they had their own blacksmith shop. Most companies were like that. They always, if a factory, it would have its own machine shop. Everything was there in the house. They made everything they could possibly without having to order it. Everything was just like everything else. It was all self-sufficient. It was right there. And you always seemed to have a good relationship with the management. Like that Curtis Woodworks I was telling you about. They actually had their own clubhouse, and they made millwork. And I guess if you had a little extra time, you could maybe they'd let you make your own cabinet or something, It was just a fun time everything's changed like that. I mean, that stuff's not quite like that anymore. It's hard for me to explain that to you, but it was like that. They'd have their own parties and dances, and there was places like that over in Rockford too. Barbara Coleman, hell, they even had a barber shop in the factory. You don't see that anymore. I think you see that model in Japan. I think we see it in Japan, but it was right here. It was. Yeah.
Do you guys have final questions?
What, if any, lessons do you think are to be learned from the strike all these years later?
Well, I hope we can learn something from it. I mean, it's a kind of a sad part in history. I guess we don't want to make mistakes like that again, but I think probably the people that lost their job probably appreciated it much more. Maybe if there was some sloth or some laziness on their parts, or whatever. But I don't think, I don't know. It's actually, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how you could put that in perspective of a lesson. I guess it would be, but let's see, 1979. It's been what, 36 years ago now? That's when it started. I mean, those days are gone, as far as I think the relationships that were with the plants and stuff. It seemed like everybody, a lot of places, just us and them, and people are scared of their jobs, and not everybody. Things were different.
Is there any final thoughts or any comments you would like to say, things that you were not able to say?
Well, I appreciate this opportunity to share this stuff. I mean, I got a lot more here, but I'd rather, I think you'd want to look at that. It'd be hard, it'd be so disorderly for me to sit and hold these things up, but it's a whole nother story about some things that happened here, and it was kind of I think you could make an Aaron Brockovich movie out of it. Sincerely. But, yeah. Yeah, I've been involved in a lot of things around here. When my wife died, I got involved in a project. We put these antique streetlights up in 1989. It was a Main Street program, and actually, part of my job is a pattern maker. We found an old street light and I made some of the parts for the lights. Then they put them up downtown. And then when my wife passed away, there's a fountain down here in our front park, so I donated 4 of them in her memory. That's what the poles look like. But this is a whole nother story.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, thank you. I didn't want to think I didn't do anything good for this town.